Hey, Meghana, thank you so much for joining us. And I would like to know today of what unconscious bias is.
Hi, Rashmi. Yeah, happy to talk about this topic. It's one of my favorite programs that we do at Navgati. What unconscious bias is it's a evolutionary safety mechanism that's really built up inside us. It's a big buzzword nowadays in the corporate world because everybody wants to talk about diversity and inclusion, and they sound like big words, but really what it is about us making people feel included and coming from that place of realization that it's not that you do it intentionally. The whole
Hmm.
point of unconscious bias is that it's unconscious, so it's really
Yeah,
that
yeah.
you don't know. There are some spaces that we know we have some prejudices, that you don't like people, you don't like people who chew their food loudly, and you may have some things that you're aware of. But unconscious bias really comes from a place where, as cavemen, we evolved this quick thinking to protect ourselves, to realize that I'm safer here. This is my tribe. They look like me. I feel I get safety, shelter, water when I'm with them. And because of that, because of survival instincts which have been honed over generations, we still use that in our day-to-day functioning. We don't have the time and the capacity to keep thinking about every decision deeply, so we use mental shortcuts which is called heuristics, to make
Hmm.
decisions to help us live our life. And that's where unconscious bias is bred. So it's not something that we're aware of. It doesn't mean that we aren't progressive. It doesn't mean anything. It just means that it is something that helps us live our life in a quicker way, and because of which, because it's in our unaware space, it may also lead us to be biased and prejudiced in ways that we don't really compute or understand yet.
And I'm guessing this bias can appear in all areas of life, like age, gender, sexuality, caste, things like that. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think, of course, the most commonly spoken about, the where the big money has been spent on in terms of research and case studies and all of that, has been gender and race.
Mhm.
But it shows itself in so many different ways. As you said, ageism is a big thing that's coming up nowadays. When I speak with clients, it's something that shows, in very mild ways, that, oh, what have you
Yeah.
done before? Really, you've done so much work. So it shows up in
Yeah.
that way for a younger person, and it also shows up for an older audience with startup culture happening. I met a client who spoke about how he shaved his mustache and beard because he wanted to look younger. He was
Mm.
being judged for looking too old to be a startup founder.
Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
so it shows itself in many places in our country, especially. I think when I speak to clients, it shows itself also in language.
Mm.
Language is a big space for bias in India nowadays. With us working cross regional, cross country, all of that, language shows up a lot as another place where people face bias as well.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah,
coming up.
absolutely. I mean, in fact, when you're saying about ageism, I remember an incident that happened to me where I kind of had this bias. So I was working with a social media group, and one of them was their name was a unisexual name, and I was just they were messaging to me on the group, and we were doing posters, and it just went on, and it was very exciting, and this person kept like sending various kinds of posters and whatnot, and so I assume this must be a young guy, because the thing that I've seen around me always are young men, like you said, very startup energy, who are into social media, doing media marketing and all of that. And finally I ended up meeting this person like physically, and I realized it was a 60-year-old woman, and she's also an astronaut, and and in the moment it took for me to kind of internalize that I assumed it was a young guy doing social media, and I think for me also to kind of check upon myself, saying that that was a bias, that the young techie world is only for the young people. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And that's actually a great point you bring up, because it's not just the evolutionary aspect, it's so much to do with our social conditioning, the way we were
yeah,
brought up, what we took as norms, and we still continue as norms, whether it's gender neutral names, which we actually associate with one or the other, whether it's what one age group is capable of or not, what one region of people is capable of or not. So there's so many things we've internalized. So it shows up in many different ways.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Meghna, for telling us about unconscious bias and to kind of also give us permissions, not to beat ourselves about it, but to be aware of it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. Thank you so much.